Okay, so you're
Yeah,
ready.
so we thought it'd be fun to talk about the evolution of the Laurel Glen Estate Cabernet label. And as you can see, there's definitely been an evolution. So I've kind of arranged these three bottles on my left. These were the Patrick Campbell years, the founder of Laurel Glen. And then I took over in 2011, and things really started changing. So this was the original Laurel Glen label, which I have to say has a ton of charm. So the logo, Patrick tells the story that when he decided to start making wine, he went to I don't even know what his title is, the guy who runs the Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, the Zen Master, I might have that wrong, and asked him to create the logo. So this is a calligraphied logo by the Zen Master at the Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. And it was the logo up until I took over and ruined everything.
Can you see it closer?
So originally, as you can see, the label was quite colorful. And then after a few years, I think Patrick decided that maybe it was too colorful and didn't, kind of communicate the gravitas of the wine. So that's when the picture started to get smaller. That's when the picture started to get smaller. This is 1989, I believe. Yeah, but this label I think was introduced in 1985, maybe 5 or 6, something like that. So after 4 or 5 years, Patrick decided that the label needed to look a little bit more serious, more upmarket. But then he was kind of convinced that he needed more gold. Gold always communicates quality with wine. So this was the label that I inherited when I took over Laurel Glen. And, it's not a bad label. The things I didn't like about it is it doesn't say vineyard. The winery's name is Laurel Glen Vineyard, and Patrick never put vineyard on the label. It also doesn't say estate, which to me is very important. And also it just looks a little bit dated. So when I took over in 2011, we were getting ready to bottle the 2009 vintage. So I thought I would just do a quick and dirty upgrade, and I hired a calligrapher to add vineyard. And didn't really change much else, sort of changed the sort of color palette of the image. And unfortunately, I don't feel it translated very well. It kind of lost the charm maybe of Patrick's calligraphy. So I feel it didn't work. So we only did that, there was only 2 vintages, 2008 and 2009, that used this label. And then I hired a real label designer, somebody whose work I had admired, to completely rethink the label. And I like to joke that this was like giving birth, because it took 10 months. All of you out there, that's how long it takes, gestation of humans. But in the end, we got something really lovely, very elegant, this beautiful crest, communicating, very much kind of what Laurel Glen is about. And also, we were able to add vineyard to the name of the wine in an elegant way that I think works beautifully. So actually the first vintage that this label was used on was 2010. So as of 2010, this has essentially been the label. Now, then what is this, you ask? Well, when I took over in 2011, we made a lot of changes to farming. Yes, we started farming organically, but we also changed the pruning and trellising quite dramatically. And I worried that it would affect, in the short term, it created wine that was, a little bit richer, easier to enjoy as a young wine. But I worried that it might affect the legendary ageability of this Cabernet, which has a reputation for aging beautifully for decades. So in 2012, we introduced what we have called for a very long time the Lot series, but have rebranded in the 2021 vintage as 7 Stars. And for this, I wanted to go back to the beginning. So I went back to the original artwork that Patrick had used for the original label and did a high quality scan of the original art, and that is sort of the inspiration for this label. So this is intended to pay homage to the early vintages of Laurel Glen. And this is a wine which is intended to easily age, 20 plus years. So then, 2021 was a very significant year for us because it is the 40th vintage of our Estate Cabernet. 1981 was the first, 2021 is the 40th. So to kind of honor that important milestone, I commissioned a special label. So this is the 40th anniversary label, and the 2 vintages are on the label. But also in the course of doing this, the designer rethought the wreath and added more gold, which I have to say we really liked. So starting with 2021, the label will continue to have the same wreath. I like to say we golded it up. Additionally, with 2021, because it was a new label, we had to get fresh authorization from the TTB. Now, for years, we had been saying on the back label, made from organic grapes. Well, the TTB suddenly noticed and said, now wait a minute, if you want to put organic grapes, you need to do it differently. So I called CCOF, the California Organic Certification Organization, to ask them how best to do this, and they recommended that I model our back label on what Ridge has been doing for several years, and which is basically adding an ingredient label. So for the first time in 2021, we have added an ingredient label onto the back of our Laurel Glen Vineyard Estate Cabernet label, which is kind of fun. Very simple. Organic Cabernet Sauvignon grapes, indigenous yeast, yeast nutrients, malolactic bacteria, and minimum effective SO2 in addition to French oak. So as of this moment, 2026, these are all of the labels for the Laurel Glen Vineyard Estate Cabernet.